Chad Hasty Show, News Talk KFYO. Let's go to the phones. Maybe our next guest will join us. He may be just as frustrated as everybody else. Congressman Jody Arrington joins us here on KFYO. Congressman, good morning. How are you today?
Great to be with you, Chad. I'm doing well and just trying to get through this rough patch for our country and get through it in a way that we help the people who need it and that we can get back to business as usual, back to normal. And, we've got to balance the human safety, which is job one, with economic viability, because if we don't begin engaging that in a strategic way, in a thoughtful and responsible way, and begin to phase in and ramp up the economy and turn the lights on, we will have a cure that was far worse than the disease in terms of economic depression-like conditions. So that's where my mind is today.
Yeah, we have on the national level 16.6 million jobless claims in the last 3 weeks, and those are the people who've been able to get through to file those jobless claims. Some numbers that I was just given, Congressman, for here in the, and this is for Lubbock, for the city of Lubbock, over 4,000 jobless claims through the 28th, 4,055 jobless claims, and about a 356% increase year over year. How do we deal with this? I know you mentioned that I mean, we've got business owners who are texting in. They're ready to open up shop right now, and they're being told they can't do that. I mean, what is your message to those who are out of work? What is your message to those who are just sitting and waiting?
Well, number one, we're all in it together, and there are lots of unknowns. This is unprecedented. Secondly, we're going to do everything we can to throw a lifeline to folks. We've provided stay-at-home, basically medical and family leave that we've provided for this window of time. We've put this CARES Act, which is a relief package that has focused on giving the cash flow, giving a bridge loan to these businesses that employ our families, so that we can have continuity of employment. They can meet payroll, they can pay rent, pay other necessary expenses, and they can actually have part of it forgiven based on retaining their employees. So there's a number of things that we're doing. The question is, how quickly can we do it? The loans are going out. I've talked to bankers, community bankers. We're trying to reconcile some of the steps they're having to jump through. We're trying to streamline the bureaucracy that existed prior to this program. And there's just a whole host of things to make sure that money gets out and into the hands of the people who need it. But we're going to make sure that they get that assistance. This was not in their control. And by the way, part of that assistance is shoring up and strengthening the safety net of unemployment insurance. And that is a necessary thing right now. But we want them to hit that safety net and bounce back to a job, because that's going to be the best thing for West Texas and for our country. And that's why we've got to be able to do that while managing the risks responsibly as we turn the lights on in this economy. We cannot be on lockdown much longer, but we're close to the peak. We see this thing flattening out, so there's hope on the horizon.
Congressman, before we take our first break, and we're going to have to do that here in just a minute, right before we had you on, in our last segment, we had a small business owner, and I'm not sure which business that he owned, but he called in, and his concern was, he's a small business owner. He was told by his bank, and he didn't mention the bank, but he was told by his bank that they're not doing the loans, that they're not engaging in the payroll protection program, that I guess the liquidity just isn't there, in that there are other banks that are not taking part in this program because the banks don't want, I guess there are some banks who feel as though they can't take that opportunity or that risk. What is your message to a small business owner out there who's been told by a bank, we're not participating?
Well, I can tell you that there are reasons why banks, there are good reasons like liquidity where they've reached their loan limit. It's unfortunate because we should be pushing out regulatory guidance that says you don't have to put as much capital. These are zero-risk loans. And the Treasury standing up a mechanism to give them liquidity. However, the majority of banks, by the way, $100 billion has been pushed out through 4,000 some odd banks. Most of our banks are doing this, and they're doing it because they want to help and they want to take care of their customers and they want to get this money out, and because it's in the long-term interest of everybody that business comes back and that we start to normalize and stabilize. So it's just, you got to get to a bank that's doing it. I mean, obviously, and there are plenty of them that are.
All right. Congressman, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll get into some other things that are coming up, and also how our ag producers can take advantage maybe of the CARE Act and other issues as well. Congressman Jody Arrington here on the Chad Hasty Show. We'll be right back. All right, Chad Hasty Show, News Talk KFYO. Joining us on the phones this morning, Congressman Jody Arrington. Congressman, in the CARES Act, obviously a lot of this, the payroll protection program, a lot of this is designed to help out small businesses. There are reports out that the House and Senate are thinking about putting some more money towards small businesses, not necessarily a Phase 4 bill, but like an interim bill or like a 3.5 bill maybe that's going to go. But the Democrats are wanting more added to it. What's going on with that, and what would you support as far as just small businesses go? Do they need more money, being pushed that way?
Okay, several points here. The good news is we're using the existing framework, so Pelosi's not putting more Kennedy Center funding and for the humanities and arts and things totally unrelated, or the Green New Deal. We saw that happen. Stalled the process. That the good news is we're working with a framework that's focused on the relief and recovery core efforts. The piece, here's my take on it. Here's my position on it. And I've said this to the conference, to leadership, to my Ways and Means Committee. We haven't worked our way through half of the hundreds of billions of dollars. It's a $2 trillion package, but in terms of the stressed businesses and distressed industries, and the stuff on SBA we're talking about, and the support for frontline workers and the infrastructure on provider side, all of that, we haven't even got through 50% of it. So I'd like to know, how's it working? Where is it where are we getting traction? Where are we doing the most, help and benefit to the folks that we are trying to help? So I'm not in any hurry to put more money out. Now, do I think that we will need more money for the small business piece? Yes. Do I think we'll need more support on the unemployment insurance piece for a temporary time? Yes. But we haven't even got through 50% of the trillions that we funded. I am not interested in putting more money out just to do it. And I'm still trying to make the existing programs work the way we intended it, to streamline it, and again, make sure we are meeting the need and the desired objective. And I can't tell you that we're fully there yet. I can say money's going out, but we still have to perfect it, and those are iterations happening daily.
And I'm pretty sure you're not for doing this yet, but look into the crystal ball maybe, because you did mention that there may need to be more money towards small businesses.
Yes,
Steve Mnuchin said that maybe beginning today and into next week, those who have done direct deposit will start seeing those, that stimulus money come in for individuals, $1,200 per adult, $500 for a child. Do you think that? I mean, we heard almost immediately last week that we're going to have another round of those checks go out. What are your thoughts on that?
I was opposed to the direct assistance program from the beginning. I made that clear. I lost. The Senate didn't give us a chance to fix it. What I would tell you is I didn't mind giving direct assistance for people in transition who lost their job. But there are people that don't need that money because they've kept their job. The ones that haven't, they may need a little bit of transition support on their way to unemployment insurance. What we don't want to do is start providing perverse incentives that have people not going back to work who could, because pretty soon we're going to need folks to get back into the marketplace, back to work, and we don't want to put up barriers to that.
Yeah. When we look at ag producers out there, this is something that's really not talked about on a national level. Out here, we take a look at, commodity prices that are hurting, oil prices that are hurting. You've got farmers and ranchers that are hurting. Is there anything in the CARES Act that goes towards farmers and ranchers?
Absolutely. There's a Commodity Credit Corporation, $20 billion, close to $20 billion, and increased funding. That's for all kinds of disaster relief. Much of that has been directed to livestock. They have borne the biggest brunt initially on this pandemic, and I think you've got the PPP program, the SBA bridge loan program, where you waive some of that when you use it for retention. That's also available for farmers. Now, there's some issues with another program at SBA. It's really a direct government lending program. There are all kinds of bureaucratic problems with that. But for the most part, the resources are there for our ag producers. The energy guys are getting waylaid right now, and we really need to prioritize them for all kinds of reasons, not the least of which is energy independence long term. So that's kind of, and then I would just say lastly, I'm also pushing hard. I talked to the vice president yesterday and the whole team. I've got Mnuchin and others. I was the first person to speak about rural hospitals. They are flat on their back. Before the crisis, they had 40% operating at a net loss. These guys can't make it. They cannot make it weeks. They may make it a few days to several. We'll see hundreds close if we don't open up the PPP program to that group of hospitals that provide critical care, and obviously they're on the front lines of battling the virus. So that was my big push with the vice president yesterday.
We have one more break that we have to take. Let's do that quickly. When we come back, I want to ask you about medical supplies in West Texas. Congressman Jody Arrington here on the Chad Hasty Show. We'll be right back. Chad Hasty Show, KFYO. Congressman Jody Arrington joins us. We've got a couple of minutes left here, Congressman. Let's talk about medical supplies and testing and everything here in Lubbock and in the more rural areas. What are you hearing from our hospitals?
Most are in good shape. I've had to work with some of the bigger hospitals, sometimes with the national stockpile folks, sometimes with the states, and sometimes I'm working directly with suppliers with them and just being on a phone call with them to elevate the sense of urgency. So it's working. I would say that it's a shortage nationwide, okay? Yeah. I think we have what we need. I think that we can never be put in this position again where we're depending on other countries for critical products, including medicines and medical supplies and the things that we know we have shortage of today. That's a longer-term problem to solve, but it's real, and it's what's caused us to take extreme precautions and measures in the immediate on the emergency response.
Do you know, Governor Abbott yesterday announced that Walgreens locations in Texas, and he didn't say where, but that they would be doing some of the drive-through testing with the Abbott Labs machine that can tell you in 15 minutes, whether you've had coronavirus or you haven't. Do we know if any of that's going to be coming out to Lubbock, or do you know if those tests are going to be coming out here eventually?
Yeah, they will. In fact, I talked to one of the providers there in Lubbock, and they have this. They already have the sort of 24-hour turnaround. The Abbott the immediate test that Abbott has, their platform, they're doling it out, distributing it nationwide, 50,000 a day, and it's coming again. We're going to peak hopefully this weekend, and we'll see that curve flatten and tail off. But here's the thing, Chad. This could come back. It could have a greater resurgence in the fall. So we better get in gear in the interim and make sure we're in a good place in the fall to manage this, much better than we have with less extreme measures so we don't, destroy the economy in the process.
Okay, real quick. We got about 40 seconds left. Do you think we're back to work here in West Texas on May 4th?
I sure hope so, and I'm on a committee that I was just appointed to look at that. We need more voices, not just Fauci and the healthcare and the epidemiologists. We need voices on the economic recovery and recovery side, and rehabilitate this patient that we've had in an induced coma. But yeah, I do think I'm pretty forward leaning on this and pretty optimistic we will.
Thank you.